Hello, guys, and welcome back to the NW Sportscast. Everything you need to know about every single NFL draft pick the Seattle Seahawks had this year. It was a fun draft, Levi. What was your overall thought process, before we really dive into the players? Because we'll get into that, but I thought it was a pretty good draft class. I like day one and day two a lot more than day three. How about you?
Yeah, no, I definitely like I thought we made good choices on the position that we are going after. Definitely kind of shoring up the O line and the D line, which is what I said. That is probably the two most important things outside of
Yeah,
quarterback and coach, right? So we're not sure if we have the right coach because he's brand new. We know what we're getting out of Gino. So what we can do though is we can improve the O line and the D line. Because as good as DK is, he's
trenches.
not carrying the team, right? A receiver or tight ends, they're not carrying the team. A good O line can make a quarterback look much better. So I love we took three linemen, and then two defensive linemen, got a linebacker in the fourth. So I think
A
the
couple of corners. Yeah.
positionally, I like it.
All right, let's jump right into this, Levi. So the way it's going to work, we're going to alternate picks. We kind of did some research on each guy, and the other guy will kind of just give some feedback to what the info is coming in. So should be good. I'm going to start. So the Seattle Seahawks with pick number 16, they draft junior Byron Murphy, defensive tackle from Texas. Now, this was the best defensive tackle in the draft class. So if you're going to go D tackle, this was the guy to do it. And they do go with Byron Murphy. There was a few other options on the board at the time. Dallas Turner was the guy I really wanted, but you can't be mad at this pick at all. He was the best D tackle on the board. A few good stuff he brings to the table. He has good weight for his size, 297 pounds. He's very, very strong. The weight he does have is mostly muscle. He could be a nose tackle or a three technique guy. Very twitchy and fast for his size. Despite being a D tackle, he's the speed of an edge. He's really, really fast for his 297 frame. He's really, really elite hands, a great swim move, and pressures the QB, which is something you don't see from a D tackle a lot. A lot of the times, these tackles kind of get hung up there. They don't get to the quarterback enough, and they're kind of just run stopping guys. But this is a guy that led all of FBS in QB pressures at the defensive tackle position. So he can really rush the quarterback, Levi. He's really good in run coverage. So he can do it on both ends of he can do it in the pass or he can do it in the run. He can do everything there. He's a three down type of guy. He's a great tackler, never gets tired, has great attitude, and was even a Seahawk fan. So there's a lot of positives. Some of the negatives, he was on the smaller size height wise for defensive tackle. He only checks in at about 6 feet tall. He can be occasionally overwhelmed by size towards the latter half of the game if he stays stagnant because he does rely on some of that speed he brings to the table. And his arm length isn't great. But outside of that, this is a top 10 grade type of guy. I'm happy with the pick. Definitely could have gone with Dallas Turner there, but there's very few weaknesses. He can play all three downs. And I think this key will immediately elevate the offense. Can't be mad at the pick at all. High floor, high ceiling type of guy.
Yeah, I mean he kind of reminds me of Aaron Donald based off just his profile, a defensive tackle who gets to the quarterback. Not saying that's what he's going to be. It's very rare that guys turn into that, and every season there's about three or four guys who get drafted that get the Aaron Donald comparisons, and none of them have turned into Aaron Donald. But
That's
uh,
unfair because Aaron Donald's one of
sure.
them.
Yeah, exactly. But so I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Donald, but I'm saying he could be I think he can probably start week 1, He's good enough to do that. I'm not sure if they maybe try him out at nose tackle or what the plan is there, but
He can play
they don't
both. It's
yeah.
another benefit.
Well, I'm not sure if we're going with a three-man front or a four-man front. I think we're going with a three-man front. And in that case, I'm guessing you put him in the middle, kind of at that nose tackle, then get probably Boye Mafe on one side, Leonard Williams on the other side. That's a
Not
solid
bad.
front three.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the pick. Turner would be more of like a Micah Parsons kind of guy, like a rushing linebacker. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have loved him too. I would have loved him too.
I would love to. Yeah, I give it about an A. So I love
Yeah.
the pick too. So who do we got up next, Levi? What's the next guy we need to know about?
The next guy I need to know about is Christian Haynes and the Seahawks. Apparently, John Schneider wasn't even sure if he wanted to draft Christian Haynes. He was trying to trade this pick and move up into the second round, but didn't get any takers. So he stayed in the third round, took Christian Haynes. And yeah, according to the scouting report from from NFL analyst Lance Zierlein. You got some pretty solid strengths. That he was a 4-year starter. That's obviously good to see. And he's definitely has the experience of, playing. He's been a right guard his whole career. Definitely a guy who I think, again, could probably come in and start on the offensive line right away, right? Because I'm not really sure what the plan was at right guard, but he can definitely come in and start right away. He is a little bit undersized as well. So again, kind of similar to Byron Murphy, the Seahawks kind of, if you would say, sacrificing the physical attributes for guys who they just think are really good players. According to the scouting report, a couple more weaknesses. He's average in run blocking, so maybe not as good if a run blocker, gets a little bit grabby, and wider hands that open him up to some concerns. But some really solid strengths in here as well. He understands angles really well. He pass sets with really good posture, staying square to the action, moves his feet to catch counters, twists at either gap. He's a very athletic player. I think that his athleticism got a really good score, 77. Total score 78. And according to this next gen stats, he is projected to eventually be a starter. Now, it doesn't say he's going to be a plus starter. So they don't think he's going to be an amazing player, but they think that he will be a starter. Senior, 317 pounds, 6'3", 9-inch hands. Solid pick, I think. He was projected to go slightly higher. I think he was more projected to be a second-round guy. And the Seahawks snoop him up in the 3rd round. So, again, we got value out of that pick in the sense that we take a player who was probably supposed to go earlier, same way we did with Murphy, right? Murphy was supposed to be a top 10 pick. If the top 10 teams all didn't pick offensive guys, there's a very good chance Murphy does get picked there. But, yeah, I like it. I like Christian Haynes. I think he can be good. We need to beef up the line.
Christian Haynes, good value pick at a position you need. A lot of times you get those value picks. It's like, well, we couldn't pass up on him. Even though we have a bunch of good wide receivers, DK Metcalf fell to us. We got to get DK Metcalf at the 64th overall pick. This was not that. This was a guy that fell to you, and you do need a guard. I like Christian Haynes as well. Definitely a good selection by the Seahawks. Then the Seahawks had to wait a little bit, all the way to round number 4, 118. Linebacker UTEP. So he's senior Tyrese Knight. And this is a guy that definitely was a little bit overdraft. He was a 5th, maybe even a 6th round grade, but there's still some good stuff to like in Knight. He's a great tackler. First of all, that's the immediate thing that jumps out to you. He led all of FBS with 84 solo tackles, not just at the linebacker position, at any position. 84 solo tackles. He's also really good at defending the run. Had 55 run stops last season. But then you start to get into some of the negatives. He's just average speed, average size, below average pass coverage, which definitely scares me because I think that's kind of the thing in linebacker position in the NFL you really need. Plays a little reckless, doesn't have great instincts, and kind of isn't the smartest IQ guy on the football field. So there's a lot of negatives. You kind of say, 4th round, early 4th round at that, what he was a 6th round grade. There was other linebackers on the board. What was the reasoning for the Seahawks? And I think Mike McDonald saw something in Knight that maybe a lot of other guys, including myself, don't really see. And I'm going to trust Mike McDonald with this one. He's a great defensive mind. You saw what he did with Patrick Queen. I think that he sees something in Tyrese Knight. He sees the upside that Knight brings. And I think even though this seems like a little bit of a reach, he sees something in Knight that can really develop him into that starting linebacker. He joined Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson for the 2 free agent offseason signings the Seattle Seahawks brought in at the linebacker position. But yeah, linebacker was something the Seahawks needed to draft. They get it done here in the 4th round with a slight overdraft in Knight.
Yeah, I'd say I'm not inspired by Knight. I mean, whatever. We overdrafted a guy who probably could have fell to us in the 6th round, but there you go. It is what it is. Next up we have
a guy.
What's that?
If you like a guy, you gotta draft him.
Sure. Next up we have another guy who we definitely could have taken in the 6th round. Tight end AJ Barner out of Michigan. He was he wasn't really there. He did start half the games last year for Michigan, but he was not their primary tight end. He was their backup tight end. He was more their run blocking tight end, and that's pretty much what you get in his scouting report. He's
Will
probably
Disley
not
comp.
going to. What's that?
Will Disley comp.
Will Disley, but he's not as good of a pass catcher as Will Disley.
Eh, I saw he was good, good after the catch and stuff like that. But you go ahead, can continue.
Yeah, so yeah, obviously he transferred to Michigan from Indiana. He according to the scouting report, he's a very good run blocker, but he's just not that good at catching passes. They don't think that he is going to be a starter, but they do think he could be a good backup according to next gen stats. So that there you go with him. Solid athleticism score. His production score is very low. He was an honorable mention last year for All Big Ten Conference, and but he only ends up going for one touchdown. So, yeah, he's not going to be like a passing tight end. I would say if you're looking for somebody to replace the production of Jacob Hollister and Will Disley, don't look necessarily to this guy. I feel like Barner, he's gonna get in there on those, the heavy sets when you're doing a run formation and you bring in those two tight ends and the ends the you bring in those two tight end packages. That's where we're going to see Barner. We're not going to see Barner lining up to go catch passes anytime soon. And that's why we signed Pharaoh Brown, right? He's going to be the backup tight end. He's going to do the Jacob Hollister thing. And that's pretty much how it's going to be for our tight end room. I would be very surprised if AJ Barner does more than maybe 10 catches, 20 catches. I would say 20 catches this season as my upper estimate for him. But as a run blocker, he can be good. Yeah.
He already is good.
Yeah.
That's
he knows how to block for the run.
Yeah, that's where that's his strength from what I saw, my brief research. But I don't really have much to say about Barner either. Seems like a guy that will probably stay in the Seahawks system for 5 or 6 years as that kind of second, third tight end option. And you know what? As a 4th round pick, that ain't too bad. So a little bit of a reach, sure. I don't hate it at all. Now we get into the couple of kind of interesting cornerback picks for me. You have someone in between, but Nehemiah Pritchett, 5th round pick, number 136, senior cornerback from Auburn. And surprisingly, not the last Auburn cornerback the Seahawks draft in this one. Let's look at some of the positives. He has some good size at 6 feet, 190 pounds. He runs well, had a 40-yard dash of 4.36 at 190 pounds is really, really good. He has really good arm reach, good footwork, attacks the catch point, is just all right in zone coverage. And then you start to get to some of the negatives. He struggles with go routes. He can't really flip his hips in time and needs kind of some of that over-the-top safety help. He's not a great run tackler, and most people had him at about that 5th round grade. So this isn't an overdraft necessarily, but there were some better cornerbacks on the board at that time. I actually liked DJ James better, which is a little bit of a precursor for who the Seahawks picked in round number 6. But this is a good guy that, they kind of drafted more for upside. Reminds me more of like a Reek Woolen, but like a little bit slower and a little bit less of an athletic freak. But this guy is a borderline, super, super athletic guy that just needs a few things tweaked to be a solid cornerback. But yeah, that's about all I got. Seems like a slight overdraft to me. Not a bad selection. Can't get mad at it at a 5th round selection.
Yeah, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round. You're just looking for guys who fit your scheme, honestly, because there's that at that point it's all kind of a toss up. Next guy for me, we got, I hope I'm saying his name right, Satau Laumea. I think the first name I might be wrong about, but Laumea.
Awa Laumea. That's how
Satau Laumea. Yeah, coming out of Utah. 319 pounds, 6'4", almost 10-inch hands. He is rated according to NFL Next Gen that he is going to be a good backup with the potential to be a starter. Last year, 2nd team All Pac-12. He was actually 1st team All Pac-12 in 2022. 4-year starter. He played some right guard. He also played some right tackle. Competent drive blocker, and according to the scouting report, he possesses adequate agility and athleticism. So not good, It's adequate.
Okay, adequate.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
he can get from block to block as a climber and is generally conscientious of his footwork to bolster his success. He does have some bad habits. He oversets and he opens up inside tracks of the pocket, so that's a concern. And according to the scouting report, one issue that might not be correctable is his propensity for disengaging from blocks after the initial contact. So that's interesting. He almost like he gets scared of the guy who's rushing him and just stops trying to block him. Interesting, but I feel like that could be coachable. I feel like that's not an uncorrectable trait. According to the report, he fits all run schemes. That's good to see. And he does have some future potential to start at guard. And that's what the scouts are saying as well. An unnamed AFC scout says he is built to play inside. He does not have the skill to play outside. So that's interesting. So that's kind of going against the what the report says. According to Chad Reuter, he's going to be a guard, but according to this anonymous scout, he's going to be a tackle. So I'm not sure exactly where to place him there. But yeah, I mean, it's a solid choice. He was projected to be a 4th round pick by Lance Zierlein and ends up getting picked in the 6th round. So from that angle, it's not a bad pick at all. You get it. And again, going for the value of, you see a guy who most people thought would have been gone earlier and say, well, there's a reason why most people had him ranked higher. Let's go take a chance on him.
And once again, this is not a quarterback. This is not a running back. You can never have too many tackles and guards.
No, I mean, you saw what happened to the line last year. It was
that's
so.
That's what I was about to say.
I would say I kind of wish we would have taken Christian Mahogany at that point because he was still on the board as well. But maybe there's real concern with Christian Mahogany because he was supposed to be like a 2nd or 3rd round pick and he fell to the 6th round. So I'm not sure what was up with that. When I saw him available, I was like, oh, the Seahawks should definitely take a chance on that guy. And then they took a chance on a different guy instead, and whatever.
Exactly. Next up, round 6 pick, 192, cornerback from Auburn, senior DJ James. Another Auburn cornerback. It was the other starting Auburn quarterback for last year's Tigers. So they both reunite in Seattle, one 60 picks after the other. He's a little bit smaller than, Pritchett, only 175 pounds compared to Pritchett at 190 pounds, and they're both 6 feet tall. He's also a little bit slower, despite the 15 pounds lighter he is. But what he lacks in speed, and he's not slow by any means, he's average speed, but what he lacks in speed, he really makes up for from his IQ on the football field. He has a really high IQ. He mirrors wide receivers really well, knows the game of football, has elite body control, always knows where he is on the football field. Even though he has average speed, he has elite lateral quickness, so he can move side to side. He cuts really well. He's good in the zone. And unfortunately, his straight line speed isn't quite there right now. He can get physically outmatched at some points because he's only 175 pounds. Last I checked, I'm 173. So, that kind of puts it into perspective. He sometimes lacks killer instinct in the run support, can get beat on go routes. And he was a 5th round grade. So this is actually a slight value pick for the Seahawks. Most people had TJ James above Naima Pritchett, who went 60 picks earlier. I think Pritchett kind of went a little bit higher because of the athletic upside the Seahawks saw in him. Either way, you get James and Pritchett. Should be an interesting battle. I definitely think there's going to be some competition. James being like, oh, yeah, well, you drafted Pritchett before me, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be out for blood. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, my God, this is a crowded quarterback room, Levi. What is going to happen in that cornerback room? I mean, we got
off the top of my head, because we got Woolen, we got Witherspoon, we got Trey Brown, Mike Jackson. So we have 6 cornerbacks. Now, Brown is in the last year of his deal. So I imagine that means Trey Brown is probably not coming back after this season.
Well, I like Trey Brown, though, but you also have Artie Burns. There's a lot.
Oh, Artie Burns as well, yeah. Well, is Artie Burns? I think he can kind of do more of nickel, maybe.
He can play safety, too. But he's listed as a quarterback.
Artie Burns is just not that good. Let's be honest here. He was
He
not
played
good
not
last year.
bad at all last year. I think he might play some safety for us because we didn't draft a safety, which is a lot of guys
Which
want to
yeah,
do.
we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, let's go to the last pick.
Last pick in the
This is
draft.
probably my least favorite. We picked Michael Jarrell out of Findlay, which is a school that I've never heard
Me
of.
too.
Yeah, if you know where Findlay is, let us know down in the comments.
Me
I'm
too.
I'm not I'm not eager enough to look it up. Anyways, Michael Jarrell was not projected to be drafted. He is definitely considered a project. Yeah, he's just I don't think he's going to play much. According to Lance Zierlein, he shouldn't because he's nowhere near ready. He does have
He's
solid
a project
athleticism.
guy. He's a bigger dude, but
Right, project guy,
yeah.
but again, you probably could have got this guy as an undrafted free agent and picked somebody
Okay, but
else.
they liked him and he's a tackle, and you can't overdraft tackles.
Sure, but a tackle who's not even ready to play. I don't know. I mean, yeah, according to the skills, yeah, 6'4", 309 pounds. So I guess they liked his size, proportional athletic frame. He used to be a basketball player, capable of setting to the outside rush with good range. And according to his list of strengths, his traits could lead to rapid growth with pro coaching and development, which is honestly okay. Well,
That's
we
what I'm
need to
trying to
develop
say.
him. That's something that the Seahawks have not done very well
Right,
lately. It's
but if he
developing a
only
line.
got D2 coaching, you would think that the
Right.
NFL level he would improve. Maybe that's what they're trying to see.
Sure. Yeah. That's probably what they're trying to say. And maybe this is just my lack of confidence in the Seahawks all the time draft O linemen who end up being busts, which makes me wonder how our coaching staff is our coaching staff any good with O linemen? I don't know. Weaknesses. He will need immediate tweaks to his technique as a run blocker, struggles to find proper positioning. Small forward lean can make him prone to rush counters, and he needs to tether his hands and feet to improve his consistency. So yeah, definitely a project guy. I can't say I'm terribly mad about it, but I do think this is our worst pick because again, we probably can get him. We could have traded back to the 7th round to get him, or just got him as an undrafted free agent. And I really wish we had picked a safety, Drew. I have to say, like,
That's what
I'm
I'm
not
trying to
sure
say.
what we were doing there.
I think
We're gonna
one of the cornerback picks we should have drafted as a safety.
I agree. I agree. Even if your plan is to let Trey Brown and Michael Jackson go, which unfortunately for them, they're both backups, so they're not really going to get paid. They're just going to probably have to retire, or become practice squad guys.
Trey
But
Brown
they're
is
not.
not
I mean,
that
they're
bad.
backups.
Trey Brown is a
Trey
solid
Brown,
cornerback
yeah,
with some
Trey
teams.
Brown could go be a nickel corner somewhere. Mike Jackson probably not, but that probably even then, like I don't know. Our safeties right now, we have Rayshawn Jenkins listed as our starting free safety. Like
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the smartest option. Kobe
Agreed. And
Bryant
the
could
offseason's
play some
dwindling, but
safety.
maybe one of those cornerbacks might convert to safety. We don't quite know. Michael
Could
Jarrell
be,
kind of
could be.
reminds me of like a Stone Forsythe, a late round pick for the Seahawks, and now as a backup guard for the Seattle Seahawks. But he's a bigger dude. They kind of just took a chance on. Reminds me a little bit of that. That's about all the time we have, though. This is everything you need to know about every single draft pick. Levi and myself, we both made, I think we had some pretty good research. Levi, this was a good episode for sure. Overall, pretty solid draft class for the Seattle Seahawks. And
What's your
yeah,
overall score, Drew?
I get a B plus. I think it was a good draft.
I think I'd go B for now, but it's always it's so hard to tell, right? Because
Yeah,
in 3 years,
I would go
you can
B
look
plus
back and
over like a
remember.
B or a C because I think they hit their early picks, which is more important to me
Yeah,
than them hitting their 5th round pick and freaking
that's true.
it. Like your first 2 picks, I thought you nailed, and because of
Yeah, I
that,
agree.
I'm going to give them a B plus. That's about all the time we have. Please have like, comment, and subscribe. Seattle Mariners. Turns out they play baseball a lot, and because of that, we do post games a lot. So if you are a fan of the Seattle Mariners, please tune in. We do a post game show every single Seattle Mariners game. There's an NW Sportscast post game show. We're doing a lot more Seahawks draft content right now. I'm sure this is not the last video, but we also have a lot you can watch right now. So go watch those. And as for Levi and Drew, this is the NW Sportscast as always.
Go Seahawks.
And go Mariners. See you guys.